Hello and welcome to the Cougar Proud Podcast. This is Greg Woods, WSU beat writer for the Spokesman Review, joined every week by Jamey of CougFan.com. And boy, oh boy, do we have a couple, I don't even know what the right word to describe them is, couple interesting games to get to.
Face plants?
Face plants, unravelings, whatever description you want to use.
See, I don't think unraveling's fair. They didn't unravel against Pepperdine. They never raveled to begin with.
There was no raveling in the first place. Yeah, exactly. But either way, yeah, they're coming off, WSU coming off an 0-2 week to end the regular season, losses to both on the road, LMU and Pepperdine over the weekend. They came into the week with a chance to climb as high as number 4 in the conference tournament, which actually did not end up being as possible as it seemed because of I forget what game it was that ended up.
It was Pacific Sand. Like, no matter what they did this week, they couldn't have gotten the 4.
But now, theoretically, it was still possible at the beginning of the week.
Sure. But the way it played out, even if they had gone 2-0, they wouldn't have not have gotten the 4 seed. Now, of course, you could go back and say, don't lose to San Diego, Oregon State, Seattle U, blow a lead to San Francisco, and then, different conversation. But they at least could have gotten the 5 seed, which would have given them the extra day off. And they still could have gotten the 6 seed, even if they, go 1-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But instead, they do go 0-2 and drop down to the number 8 seed for the WCC tournament. They'll be playing 6 p.m. Friday against the winner of Portland and Pepperdine. And that is a 12 versus 9. So it'll be 8 versus 12 versus 9 in that game. So, I mean, and this is kind of what I told you before we even hit record, is that, like, as much as we might want to look forward to the tournament, I think what's worth much more discussion is just like how in the world they ended up losing both of these games. Pepperdine was an 88-79 game, LMU 68-67. Both pretty different games. One, LMU, they were up 15 at halftime and end up unraveling, like we mentioned, and lose by 1. And then Pepperdine, this is like, I don't know, dude. The word that came to mind for me before we hit record was just unbecoming. Like, not only for this game, but the whole week in general. I don't even. This is bad. In my opinion, this is really dark.
Right. The LMU game, it realistically followed the script of so many other games this year. They open a big lead, they're hitting a bunch of threes, things are going well, and then it just absolutely implodes down the stretch. They stop getting stops, they stop making shots. They get caught, in transition, and one thing leads to another, and then you look up and it's like, wow, it's a close game, and then kind of almost like the Oregon State game, right, where they had the big lead, they let it slip away, and yet it comes down to 2-3 minutes where they can still make 1 to 2 plays and win the game, and they don't. They give up the offensive rebounds. It was almost actually. There was a 4-point game with, I think, 2.5 left, like almost the same situation as San Francisco. And all they have to do, they get a stop, they get a chance to go up 6 or 7 and probably put that game on ice. Same situation against San Francisco, give up a 3. In this situation, give up an offensive rebound and a 3. And then, and then it's just, the natural way of things. All right, the 35% free throw shooter banks in 1 to make it a 4-point game. But sometimes you make your own luck, right? That's at the end of the day is if, the teams that create their own luck and make good things happen, that misses, and maybe you have a chance. And obviously, the slip. I know there's the 2 turnovers on where they slipped on that one spot that LMU couldn't figure out.
It was like 3. It was crazy.
There was the NBA continuation in the last 2 minutes where where Vita goes and somehow gets 2 free throws out of it. But again, these are the little things that when you play this tight to the margins, these things happen. And you slip a couple. The slipping one is an exception. That to me can't happen in terms of you've got to manage the arena better. But sometimes a guy banks in a free throw, or sometimes a guy hits a lucky shot, or there's a missed call or something. But when you dance this close to the margins, those type of things happen. You want to know how you avoid.
You're tempting fate. Like, that's just the way it goes.
You want to know how you make it so those things don't matter? Win by 15. Don't blow a 15-point halftime lead. That was the thing, is within minutes, that lead disappeared. It's not like, it was 15, they whittled it down to 2 over the next, in 6 minutes, that lead was down to 2.
Yep.
And I think it's been their problem all year. They can't win on the road. And I think the most damning thing, I think, and this was a big problem for me, is we talked about after the St. Mary's game, right, in that second half where they just stopped shooting threes. And they go 0 for 7 from 3, and it's not, we talked about, it's not the 0 that was the most shocking, it was the 7. Yep. But some of that you chalk up, that's Randy Bennett, that's St. Mary's. You see the adjustments they make. They just did the same thing to Gonzaga.
Yep.
But to let that happen against LMU, who gives up threes at a 35% clip, and is not a bad defensive team. Their analytics are pretty good defensively. But to let yourself get run off the three-point line again, and in 2 second halves, take 14 total threes, when that is, whether or not they want to say it or not, that is the identity. We talked about the percentage of points they get from 3. We talked about how Mark Few, who knows a thing or two about basketball, says they're at their best when they're hitting threes. But to let that happen again is hard for me to understand what the game plan was. Of the one thing LMU has is size inside, right? How many possessions did they burn trying to have Andy Okafor back down Rick Asanza, who's 7'1", 250, and 63 years old? It just kind of baffles the mind to some degree.
And then the other thing I think was kind of jarring to watch happen was Jamey goes for 31, which was his career high against a Division I opponent. And this is like a 5th-year player. This is not some small sample size that you're working with. This guy started his career at San Jose State, played like 2 or 3 years there, and his second year now at LMU, and there's just like it's very little resistance, I feel like. Once you get into the paint, and this is like kind of what you're saying about Andy Okafor, like not being able to generate much offense against the Sansa, like when you don't have a true rim protector who has, the ability to deter guys from driving, like that's going to happen. Right. And then it's like, and then it goes a layer beyond that where it's like, okay, like you've had, like the roster is what it is. So like, why have you not made the adjustments to just keep him in front of you based on the roster you have? And it's just like all these things, like I think like above all, even, we'll get to the Pepperdine game in particular here in a few minutes, but like above all, so many times throughout the season, you have players doing things to Washington State that they have never done in their careers to that point.
And I think, to the point with Amy, like he's a good player. He's averaging almost 15 a game, but, and I think there's a very distinct difference between, you look back like late last year, right? And the game Ryan Beasley had where he's hitting fadeaway step back threes. He's making plays that are just out of this world. It's like, fine. He's just on one of those days. But you look at the way Amy hit a couple threes, but he's a good 3-point shooter. And then everything else, he was just getting to the bucket. It wasn't as if, because we've talked about before, like some of the times where it's just like, what are you supposed to do when who's the San Diego guy? Vuk Boskovic hits 4 contested threes over guys, or some of the threes Dent hit in the first St. Mary's game, and it's like, okay, like sometimes guys just have good nights. They just get really hot. Lamar Washington, obviously the prime example, where he just could not miss. Yeah, but these were all like shots at the rim. These were all fairly open shots. He didn't hit anything where it's like, what are you supposed to do? They're all fairly clean looks. And I think that's what separates that game especially. And again, we'll get to another example of this here in a minute, from some of the games we've talked about in the past where it's just like, yeah, this guy just got white hot and there was nothing you could do. Like, again, Washington, Beasley, sometimes that's just the game of basketball. These were like, yeah, if you give, he took most of their shots. He had their highest usage because let's keep in mind, LMU's best player didn't play. Jalen Shelley was out. Now, the flip side is Amy taking however many 20-some shots if Shelley's playing? No, probably not. That's always the give and take. But this was a lower usage guy. You look at Amy's usage this year on KenPom, and he's he's used on 22.8% of their possessions. That's actually 4th on the team. Granted, he does take the highest shot percentage, and he just got the ball a bunch and just kept scoring. He kept doing the same thing, and he just kept – they could not stop it. By the way, MJ Aney, the game after, Seattle U, 0 for 3, 2 points. So not even that he didn't score. He got 3 shots. That was their game plan, is take him away. Now they had V-Day had 19, McBride at 21, but they basically said, fine, we're going to make anyone besides this guy beat us. That's what Chris Victor said, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, and V-Day had 28 against WSU in the team's first meeting. So it almost seems like they were like, okay, V-Day torched us, so let's just make sure that he doesn't, which they didn't. I mean, they did a good job against him, but it's almost like they had no game plan beyond keeping V-Day off the scoreboard.
And even then, he got going in the second half. Like, he only ended up with 10, and he was 4 for 16, but I think he was 0 for 8 at halftime. And
he got going in the second half, yeah.
Yeah, and he's got one move. He goes and he hits the mid-range, and he's really good at it. But he's not a shooter. No. He's not going to blow by you to the rim. Like, the guy's taken 28 threes this year and has hit 8. One was against Wazoo, of course. But he's not the kind of guy who's going to, just speed by you to the rim the way that, some of the quicker guards will. He's not going to beat you from 3. He's going to get to that mid-range spot, and he does a really good job of doing that. But he started to do that in the second half. And then what makes him, and he's a good player, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying otherwise. Yeah. He's really good at passing out of that. I mean, he's kind of your point for him. He's got an assist rate of 29.2, which is really good for a guy of his size. And, but that's, that's how they start beating you. And then, Rodney Brown hits a couple threes. And it's, again, they have 3 guys in double figures. They have 3 guys account for 57 of the 67 points. They had 3 total field goals outside of V-Day, Brown, and Amy. Jeez. And that's enough. That's what it takes to win. Yeah, yeah. Well, and like with the V-Day stuff, it's like I almost feel like that fits really nicely into just the entire not identity, it's not on purpose, but just like the way the season has gone for them, where it's like the game gets close, they're coming back, things are getting kind of tricky, and then next thing you know, it's like they don't have the mental fortitude or whatever the word you want to use is to kind of push and just get stops when it matters most. And it's just like, I don't know, dude. Like, these games just get so close. And I think I mentioned this to you 1,000 times, just in conversations. I don't know about on this podcast, but so many times, and this goes at every level of basketball, teams will take on the personality of their coach. I know I've said this a million times. They'll take on the personality of their coach, consciously or unconsciously, and kind of adapt their mojo, and I think with Kyle Smith's teams, it was like, hey, he's a defensive-minded guy, gritty guy. He coaches him really, 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 really hard, obviously. And I'm not saying that Riley and their staff doesn't, but they do give you this sense of like kind of being more laid back and chill, which there's plenty of upside to that. I mean, obviously you see when they're clicking on offense, they're really hard to guard. But the other side, the flip side is that like that personality, that chillness, that laxness does not really lend itself to getting critical stops in crunch time and really bearing down and really just gritting your teeth. Like, that's not really the MO of this coaching staff. And I think you see it with the players, and I don't know, I mean, they might not see it that way, but I just like watching these games and getting to know all these coaches. It's like, hey, like there's probably a little bit of that going on, honestly. Here's the thing, and I think this is what is maybe damning more than anything is, in the offseason, right, it was got to get better defensively. And there was a stretch where they were, right? Like, they had a stretch in there where, the defense is really making some strides. But you now look at the full body of work, they are markedly worse defensively than they were last year. Yeah. What killed them last year more than anything was that they could not rebound. Yep. Right? But everything else, they were bad defensively at, but it was just, they were 331st in offensive rebounding or defensive rebounding. Now they're 88th. They've been better, not good, but I think you've seen what happens when a team has a guy who's 7 feet tall. Well, and that number was a lot better, like a month or two ago, right? Like at one point they were like number 4 nationally, like preventing offensive rebounds. I think going into that Gonzaga game, the first one. But then you start looking at everything else. It's wow. They don't force any turnovers, which you don't have to be successful, right? If you even go back and you look at Kyle's last team, they were 277th in turnover rate on defense, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a required it's not required in the recipe to be successful. I mean, Michigan doesn't force a lot of turnovers, and they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. But if you don't force turnovers, then you better be able to really wall up and play defense. And yeah, they've done a better job defensive rebounding. Well, teams are shooting 35.6% from deep, 52% from two. They're 262nd in block percentage. They're 227th in defensive efficiency on KenPom. They were 198th last year. So You're suddenly like, wow, there is. If you look at their ranking, obviously it's the worst since the Kyle Smith, or since before Kyle Smith. But it's like you're getting into the point of some of the Ernie Kent defenses, and that is not company you want to keep.
No, well, I just think they're like regressing, not from last year to this year is one thing, but they're regressing from like the beginning of this season. Because they were number 4 nationally, like I said, but then there's just now they can get a rebound. They're wearing that. They look worse. I'm sorry, they look worse. I mean,
I wrote about this earlier. They were 11-13 and 6-5 coming into the month of February, right? Mm-hmm. Not a good overall record. 6-5 in conference. You're like, okay, you've still got Pacific, Oregon State, LMU, Pepperdine, very real chance to go 10-8. Mm-hmm. And they went 1-6 in January. And that includes losses to Oregon State, to LMU, to Pepperdine. They got run off the floor by Gonzaga. And then in the second half of the St. Mary's game, they got run off the floor. They really played well twice. They played well against Pacific, and they played well for them to some degree against Santa Clara. Obviously, the defense didn't play well, but you lost by 4 to Santa Clara. You were in that game until the end, and you played 20 good minutes against St. Mary's, LMU, and Oregon State. It was right there for the taking to go. I mean, we talked about the scenarios this weekend to get the 4 seed. You could have very easily gotten the 4 seed and not even had to worry about this weekend. And you'd be off until Sunday. You'd get a tired team. Would you probably go and just get your teeth kicked in by Gonzaga on Monday? Sure, it's Gonzaga. But the opportunities were right there for them to put themselves in a decent enough spot to push their way into the 4 spot. And then, it's probably not going to happen to beat Gonzaga, but you're at least probably playing until the semifinals of the WCC tournament. That sounds a lot better than the possibility of losing on Friday.
Well, we have talked a million times about just like how, and at some point, the optics matter more than a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. And getting to that point, being able to say, not only just like for the optics of like the state of the program, but being able to tell guys in the portal or like prep guys, hey, we were able to kind of salvage what we were and we made it to this point of the tournament and we gave ourselves a chance. And, with your help, maybe we can get, you know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of like ways you could pitch that to guys in the portal or just, to the fans, whatever it might be. Like they're like, that gives you a little bit of like a selling point and a better look. But how do you pitch this? I mean, this is just like,
here's the most damning statement I think you can make right now. If you had to ask someone who's more likely to be playing Saturday, the men's team or the women's team, it's hard to argue against the women's team who won 7 games this year. Because they play Seattle U on Thursday, who is one of the worst teams in the country. They'll probably beat. And then they'll play Pacific on Friday if they win that, who won 1 game on the road this year. So, now, the Wazoo women's team was not good this year. I'm not saying otherwise. Yeah. But that path is like... And you've seen Cami Ethridge go into these conference tournaments and win. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance they play until Saturday. It is hard right now to see the men going anywhere else besides Beasley and winning. Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't even know if we even talked about just like the fact that they went a combined 1-11 against D1 teams outside of the state of Washington this season. I mean, that's almost impossible. And just to go through them really quick, they got so the reason we say I guess D1 is because they beat D2 Chaminade and Maui. Yes. Which, by the way, they were down 20 in that game.
Yeah,
a D2 team, dude.
They needed a massive second half to beat a D2 team.
D2, dude. I mean, it is just. I mean, yeah. So anyway, the reason we say that is for that reason. But just to run through them here.
And by the way. Chaminade went 13-15 this year. So
not even a particularly good
they played
D2
a national championship D2 team.
Right. So it starts out. So in order, they lost to Davidson, lost to ASU, also in Maui, lost to Seton Hall, also in Maui, lost to Bradley, lost to USC, went over Portland, which they were also down. But which I'm like, I don't mean to disparage them, but they were.
I mean,
they had to kind of come back to win that
17 minutes
game.
in that game where they looked lost.
Yeah, I was there at that game. They didn't look like a team that was, but then they pulled it out of their hat, and
they had 32 points at half, and with 9:47 to go in that game, they had 37 points.
Yeah, but I also feel like if we're just gonna go off the results, it's not fair to be like, well, they needed this, because I mean, Bradley, they almost won that one too, I guess.
Right, and to their credit, they did manage to come back and win that game.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Keep in mind, they also gave up 13 points in the last 143 and almost let Portland come back and win it.
Yeah, dude. So lost to St. Mary's, lost to San Francisco, lost to San Diego, lost to Oregon State, and then these last two losses to LMU and losses to Pepperdine. Some of these, not all these are the same. Like you mentioned, they had to come back to beat Portland. Bradley, you had the strange decision to leave Ace Glass on the bench in the last for the last possession. So all these, I think they require nuance and context, but you get paid to win the games, and that's not what has been happening in David Riley's second season. And I don't know. I mean, I think this goes back to just this team, his last two teams. I mean, they were better on the road last year, but when I look at the totality, I know a little bit.
At least not in conference play.
Yeah. But the point is that, when I look at these two David Riley Washington State teams, among the descriptions that come to mind, tough and gritty and ability to win on the road is number 50 on that list. I get so far down.
Yeah, I mean, he says it all the time. It's hard to win on the road, and there is some truth to that. I mean, if you look at
sure.
Again, Ken Palm, which is the master of all analytics, is the WCC this year has the highest or fourth highest of any conference in terms of win percentage at home. 65.4% of the home wins were the home team, and how many of the ones that weren't? How many of that 35% is Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Santa Clara? Most of it.
Right.
I mean, I think when it was all said and done, the other 9 teams in the league beat the top 3. Was it once? I think Portland had the one win over Gonzaga, and then otherwise it was.
Yeah, I don't. Did St. Mary's lose at home at all? I don't. St.
Mary's didn't lose at home. Santa Clara's only losses were to Gonzaga twice and Santa Clara, or to St. Mary's, and Gonzaga's only losses were to St. Mary's and Portland. So no one else beat those 3 teams. So keep that in mind in terms of the home win percentage.
Yeah.
But it was basically the 3 teams and then the rest of the conference, whoever just won at home. But the point we're making within that is it is difficult to win on the road. That is a factual statement. Even some of Kyle Smith's very good teams would struggle away from home.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're playing these teams that are sub 200 in Ken Palm. You are playing teams like Pepperdine, who are bad teams. I'm sorry, but they're a bad team.
Well, they're bad teams. And here's the other thing. So you can go and look at the actual box scores from these games and get the official attendance. So Pepperdine attendance, 792. LMU attendance, 994. So they failed to play in front of a crowd of 1,000 people in both of these games.
It's not like
they're high school games with more than that,
right? It's not like it's the home court advantage of the Kennel or even whatever the hell they're calling St. Mary's Arena now.
So do you want to? And just for the sake of this, well, and so I'm going to get to that. So for the sake of this topic, I went to some of the new Pac-12 teams and just kind of compared what they'll be walking into next season in terms of road environments. So do you want to know how many people attended Utah State's last home game?
A lot.
10,270. Their average attendance this season, 9,640.
Yeah.
That's okay. And that's okay. And maybe you were like, okay, that's kind of an extreme example because they put a lot of, that's one of the best home environments in the country. So maybe you're like, okay, that's a little bit of an outlier. You have Gonzaga. We know what Gonzaga is all about. Even like Boise State, their last home game, 6,142.
I will say that is a tough comparison, just in the sense of they live. I guess if you're comparing to Washington State, maybe, but if you're comparing to LMU, that's fair.
No. I'm just saying that, like, if you, because people kind of, and well, I guess I should have said earlier, like, after the LMU game, Riley goes on the radio and says, like, it's hard to win in these tough road environments.
Oh, yes.
I should have prefaced it with that. I'm sorry about that. But that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that, like, if you think these are tough road environments, well, it's going to get exponentially more difficult. So, like, Boise State, 6,142 was their last home game. Even Colorado State, they've had a tough year. 5,013 was their last home game. Oregon State, 2,626. So that's a little bit on the same level as the Cougs. But, like,
well, they're going to have a new segment with a new coach. Keep that in mind as well.
Right. And then San Diego State, which I should have mentioned earlier, their last home game, 12,414. Average home attendance in San Diego State, 11,510. And then, I mean, even Fresno State, their last home game was 6,142.
Yeah. So it's like Fresno State is not a good team.
No. It's just, so the point is that, like, everywhere you look in this new conference that you're going to be competing in, if you think these are tough road environments, Pepperdine and LMU, I mean, like, you have another thing coming.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
Right. I mean, I think, again, to your point of, it's obviously those are just playing in different cities, in different arenas. It's not the impact of a crowd. The crowd's not making a difference there. You're not losing those games because the crowd is making things hard on you. You're losing those games because you have to travel, because you're not at home, because you don't have a little bit of fan energy to feed off of. Yeah. I mean, here and again, I mean, this is as tough as it is to win on the road. Again, the women's team with 7 wins this year won 3 games away from Beasley. In terms of 3 games outside of the state of Washington on the road. They won 7 total games, and they still managed to win 3 road WCC games, 1 being Seattle U, and 3 total outside of the state of Washington. So it can be done.
It can be done. And I don't even think, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I don't, unlike the crowd or like the road environment is not the reason why they lost the game. We're only talking about that because I think it was a mistake for Riley to go on the radio and say that these are tough road environments to play in. Like, yeah. And I know maybe that's just kind of a thing you say. It's coach speak. Maybe it kind of just like comes out when you're trying to find something to say in the moment. But I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, maybe he doesn't actually think that was a big enough thing, but it's not a good look to act like, these sub 1,000 crowds are a factor in any way, shape, or form.
No, the only way they could be is if it's so empty that it almost throws you off, because it's like, wow, there really is. You feel like you're playing a scrimmage almost. But yeah. Even then, you got to still find ways to do it. It can't be why you're losing games.
No. Yeah. So, and we haven't even talked about the Pepperdine game, which I think, I mean, good Lord, man. I mean, I don't like, there's just like so many, anything we talk about this game is just going to be like, Pepperdine did a thing that they have not done to anybody else this season, at least not in conference play. Like, they were down 20 at one point, which I think you said their biggest lead on anybody in conference play was like 12.
Yeah. And they led most of the game by 12.
Right.
Like, they hadn't led by 20 against a conference opponent since, I think there was a game last year where they beat they blew the doors off like Pacific, apparently, because that was a thing that could happen last year. Right. But it was the first time since sometime last year that they led a game, a WCC game by 20, and they hadn't led by 12 this year. And
that's like they were fighting uphill the entire game pretty much. Like,
yeah, And that's the thing, is the score looks better. They were never really in that game after the first half.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were down. Like, if they made a little bit of a push, got to within, like, I think as close as like 8 in the final minute and a half or so. But without that, you end up losing by 12 or 13. Which is just, I mean,
they hit a couple threes in garbage time. Like, to me, that doesn't impact the outcome or what we all saw in that game. And that was the fact that they went on the road to a team that came into that game 267th in Ken Palm. 8 wins, and 2 of those were against D2 teams or non-D1 teams. They were 267 in Ken Palm. For reference, there was 365 D1 teams in the country. So that is a bottom 100 team coming into that game. And you couldn't score on them, a team that was basically giving up 80 points every, I think, 19 games this year, something like that. and you could not get any stops. And this goes back to what we were saying about how Amy killed them. Yeah, Stefan Cisic has a career night against them. He wasn't doing anything besides grabbing the ball off the rim and putting it back into the basket. This isn't, this guy's hitting step back threes or fadeaway jumpers. He took 16 shots. I don't think any were outside 2 feet around the rim. But yeah, you give a 7-foot guy shots 2 feet around the rim, there's a good chance they're going to go in.
Yeah.
And I think, that was just a pretty, that was, again, a damning indictment on just the defense and the rebounding of, here's a guy who's 7 feet and they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah. He was not particularly, I'm not trying to disparage him, but you don't watch his game and think he's the second coming of Jokic or some really skilled big.
To his credit, in the last few games, he's played pretty well since they lost Danilo Dozic. 13, 17, 8, and 10 coming into that game, but not 23.
We're not 23. And I honestly think, dude, when's the last time you saw someone with 10 rebounds and 8 were offensive rebounds?
He coming into that game had 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 13, 15, 16. He had 19 offensive rebounds this season. He had almost half. He had more than 40% of that total, and then in one game.
Goodness gracious!
That's the type of thing that it's just box him out. Make him go over the back. And yes, he does have a height advantage by an inch or two on ND, on Simon, and so on. But it's not again, with the San Francisco guy, Giga Barria, who's 7'3", and can still just reach up. If you box him out, he's going to go over the back.
Well, and he's not particularly athletic either. So I feel like once you get a body on him, it's going to be harder for him to, maneuver around you.
Right.
So, yeah, dude, 23 and 10, 8 offensive rebounds, both career highs. I honestly, though, to shoot 39% from the field, which is their final number, and that also includes their fake comeback at the end where they're making a little bit of a push.
They scored 36 points in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of those are just, you're throwing up threes because you're desperate.
Yeah. Well, I think they were at 45 with 10 minutes to go or so.
They scored 43 in the first 10 minutes. In the first 30 minutes, excuse me.
I was prepared to have to find out the last time that they gave up that few points. Pepperdine did. It was about to be their best defensive game in a long freaking time. So
they gave up 63 earlier this year to Stephen F. Austin. It was actually a good team, so that's kind of funny.
I think even one of the D2 teams or NAIA teams they played scored more against them.
Life Pacific scored 80. They scored less on Pepperdine than a D2 team did.
Is that D2? Is that what they are?
I assume so. They might be an NAIA.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's Life Pacific, who by the way went 13 and 15 this year.
Once again, a substandard D2 team that acquits themselves well against the Cougars. Dude. Honestly, and this is the thing.
They're NAIA, by the way.
NAIA, okay.
Yeah, Pacific's NAIA.
So many, I think when you actually get into the weeds, they're just going to watch the way they run their offense. They're running so many of these kind of staggered ball screens where they're coming around a screen or they're setting elevator screens. Once teams realize they can switch those screens and they're not having to chase guys around, that's it. They have nothing. This is what I don't understand is that, how many times have we heard Riley in postgame talk about, they took away our first action, so we have to do a better job of getting to our second. It's how many times has that been an issue? And why is that an issue against Pepperdine? You know what I mean?
That is the question. Again, if that's an issue against Gonzaga, okay. It can't be an issue against Pepperdine. Exactly. It just cannot.
Yeah. I also almost feel some of these games, I don't know. They're just they just make offense harder than it needs to be a lot of times.
Yeah.
They're struggling in ways that they don't have to struggle in. Sometimes this is kind of reductive and maybe it's not so simple, but sometimes I almost feel like you got to just give the ball to Ace Glass and run him run a high ball screen.
And just get out of there. Give the ball to Ace and get out of the way. One of my favorite things I remember Kyle Smith ever saying is his first year, right? You're still forming an identity, and they're down, I want to say 1 or 2 to ASU. They're down 1 to ASU with like 45 seconds left. And Wazoo calls a timeout, and they go to the huddle, and Isaac Bonton goes to Kyle, and he's like, all right, well, what do you want to run? And Kyle just says, just give the ball to CJ, as in CJ LMU, their best player, and they're scoring. Just give the ball to CJ. That's simple. What does CJ do? Hits a step back 3 to win it, and they beat ASU. I mean, sometimes it's just that simple of give Ace the ball. Let him create something. And there's obviously, again, there's a difference between what CJ LB was then. I mean, that was a guy who got drafted a few months later. And was a bigger body than Ace. Ace, at the end of the day, he is small. You get into the tree, he can't necessarily score through a 7-1 guy, but sometimes that's the simplicity of the game of basketball, is just give that guy the ball. And if he's going, and just let him go. And when he's kind of one of the only guys who can consistently create his own shot, I mean, you kind of just have to let him work.
Well, and I also feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, coaching is just getting the most out of your guys as possible. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing things that do not serve that end, then what are we doing?
Well, and I think it's you talk about the offense, they make it harder on themselves. What was one of the biggest turning points of that game? When ND Okafor tries to dribble the ball up the court. And I'm not trying to pick on ND here, because there's obviously there's something else going on. How many times have we seen that over the last few weeks, where he starts to try and lead a break or starts to dribble and then turns it over? That was a 3-point game at that point.
Yep.
And they had the ball with a chance to either bring it to win one or tie. He gives it up. It's an easy lane for Pepperdine. They go on a 9-2 run to end the half. Next thing you know, it's an 8-point game, or maybe it was a 9-4, something like that. The point being, it's just those kind of things. It's like that can't happen. Like it's. I'm not trying to knock on ND, but that's not his game. He is not going to be dribbling. He should not be dribbling the ball that far up the court.
Yeah. Well, there are some guys in every level of basketball that when they put the ball on the floor, you're some bad is probably going to happen. And it's not even really his fault. Like he's got, I mean, we talked 1,000 times about how much better he's gotten this season, but all of that has to do with his back to the basket game and within, 5-6 feet of the hoop. And that's great. But obviously his game is not, does not lend itself to handling the ball, which is okay. So why is he in that spot to begin with? So I just there's just so many weird, because I mean, we can sit here forever talking about the turnovers, but so many of the turnovers are just completely just unnecessary and uncalled for, and just weird situations that they have no business being in the first place.
Well, I mean, how many times over the ball gets thrown out of bounds, or a guy dribbles off his foot, or they just lose it, and it's just those are the turnovers in the LMU game. Yalaho just loses the ball, it just kind of falls out of his hands. Those are the turnovers you can't have. And it's especially because a lot of those are live ball turnovers. I think it was Tomas had the one where he tries to break the press and he throws it over someone's head and it goes out of bounds. Bad turnover, but it's dead ball. You get a chance, you get back, you set your defense. It's the live ball turnovers that just kill you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so many of these teams are not Pepperdine. It's hard to score in the half court, especially for teams that are not good to begin with, like Pepperdine. So you need to just, do what you can to make it as hard as possible on them on offense. And the easiest way to score is in transition. I mean, I know people, this is not an NBA podcast, but the Thunder, who won the NBA championship last season, a third of their offense came off a turnover, just getting out in the open and scoring. So I just when you give a team that you should be beating anyway chances to just kill you in transition, you're gonna lose. It's that simple. I don't know, man. And then after the game, Riley goes on the radio and says, this is kind of abbreviated comments, but it says it's a really hard result to comprehend. It says they out-toughed us. We looked timid on offense. So they played soft on the glass, and finally he says, I don't know what to say. And it's just if you're in a spot like that after a game against Pepperdine, it's not good, man. So I think what everybody wants to know, or at least wants to discuss is like Riley's future at WSU. I know we've stuck to our guns a lot of times about how we think he's going to get a third year. Here's where I'm at. Gun to my head, is he going to be back? Is he fired? I say he'll be back for a third year. However, at the same time, I think if there's ever a possibility, it's much more likely right now than it was a week ago.
I'm still operating under the belief he'll be back. I don't think.
No, I think so too.
After 2 years, so
yeah, no, I think so too. But I think that if there's any possibility, it's in higher supply than it was even 7 days ago. So because here's kind of what I like. Again, like my prediction is not that he'll be fired, but my thought process here, just to flesh this out a little bit, was that like Betsy Cantwell, the president, has made it pretty clear that like she values a fresh start, which is, I think, a key reason why they let go of Ann McCoy. You know, we're going into this new Pac-12. We want someone who, you know, we feel like we're on the same page with and is ready for, you know, the new challenges that will arise from competing in this new conference. And I mean, I'm not saying that's the way she feels about David Riley, but I'm just saying that there are like kind of clues that you could look at in terms of like which way this will go. So yeah, I don't know if there's any credence to that when it comes to Riley, but I mean, that's kind of what has befallen this program in recent months. So yeah, you still think he'll be back?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so too. I still think so too, but I do think there is like, I don't know. I also kind of think there's a little bit of pressure on them to win at least one game in this WCC tournament.
Yeah, they lose to Pepperdine again.
Yeah.
Wolf.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess we could go into the tournament a little bit. So they're going to be
hard. We don't know. I mean, it's either Pepperdine or Portland, right?
Yeah, Pepperdine and Portland.
Yeah, that's all we kind of know.
Yeah. But the key factor is that it's going to be away from Beasley Coliseum, which is
led to one result basically this year.
Yeah. Like I don't know, man. Like, and this is kind of like what I wanted to talk about a little bit is that, like, I mean, how many times this season has Riley gone out to post game and talked like, hey, we got to, you know, generate some more mental toughness. We have to be more mentally tough. Like, is that possible at this point? Like, how can you generate that? Like, how can you just foster that? You know what I mean?
It doesn't seem like something that all of a sudden a switch flips in, you know, March, right? Maybe it flips in December or January, but, you know, it's hard to foresee a team that has had as many road struggles as they have all of a sudden. I mean, I guess, yes, it's not a true home game for anyone, so it's a neutral site game, and maybe that makes a difference, but it's hard to say when, you know, the root of all issues has been not being in Beasley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't like.
It's not like, by the way, it's not like they're one of the teams who, they went 13-0 in Beasley. They lost to Idaho in Beasley.
Yeah, they were not flawless at home either. A lot of the same issues that we're talking about have been in just as prevalent at home too. It's just that they've been able to, you know, eke out more wins at home. But yeah, man, like as far as like, because like I just don't know if there's a way to, especially in this day and age, like I think it'd be one thing if you could count on bringing your roster back year after year and be like, hey, you know, we'll have the same guys. We're going to get tougher over the offseason and we're going to go, you know, walk on nails or something. You know what I mean? Like we're going to go just like do something. Because that's the thing. They did the overseas trip last summer to London and Spain. And that was like hailed as this like team bonding thing. And it was going to do X, Y, and Z. Like how, if that doesn't generate some sort of like the mental toughness or like fortitude or togetherness you need to win on the road, then I don't know what will. Mm-hmm. You know, like I don't know, like what. There's no like, you can always get your guy. You can get in the lab and get better at shooting. You can get in the lab, and, you know, get better at defense, whatever. All these different things, but like, there's no like, unless you're going to like, you know, Ra's al Ghul and getting more mentally tough, and like, how does that happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's a hard path to see.
I just don't see. And I'm not saying it's impossible. You know, I don't, you know, maybe they bring in someone over the offseason that helps them get there, or plays a thing, or something unforeseen happening could happen. I'm not discounting that, but as constructed right now, it's just like hard to see them magically becoming a team that has the that can kind of steal themselves at the right time and avoid these road losses. So that's honestly kind of where we're at. So yeah, they're going to get Pepperdine or Portland on 6 p.m. on Friday. We will both be there. If they win that one, which is not impossible, they will play San Francisco the next day, Saturday, at also 6 p.m.
And that's a team that they had beat on the road. They had on the ropes on the road. They were up 8 with 6 minutes left, and they were up 4 with 2 minutes left. That's, I think, the crazy thing is you look at their path, right? You got Portland or Pepperdine. They can beat either of those teams. We have seen them beat either of those teams.
Yeah.
They played San Francisco well enough on the road to make you think they can beat San Francisco. They were up 17 against Oregon State. They can beat Oregon State. If you look at their path to get to the semifinals, it's in theory, they can get to the semis if it's purely on the notion of they have beaten most of the teams they need to get there, and the one team they haven't beaten, they would have, A, beaten at home most likely because they beat better teams at home, but B, they almost beat on the road. So that's what's just so crazy is if you just put them in a vacuum in space and said you need to beat Portland/Pepperdine, San Francisco, and Oregon State across 3 days, it's not an unreasonable thing to say.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much variance between which team shows up and then what they are able to do not in Beasley. I'll put it this way. You say you got those 3 games in 3 days in Beasley, they probably win all 3.
No, I agree.
You say you win those 3 games in 3 days, each in the road arenas, they probably lose all 3. Where does the neutral site fall in? They obviously played 3 neutral site games, and they lost to ASU and Seton Hall. I'm not counting the Spokane games as neutral sites. Those are,
Yeah, that's a home game.
Right. And in fairness, ASU and Seton Hall are better than the teams they're about to play.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, they could very well win those 3 games and get to the semis to face Gonzaga. But just as easily as they could do that, they could fall on their face against either Portland or Pepperdine and be done on Friday.
They need to make a deal with the clock people that manage the games to be hey, let's actually end the game with 9 minutes to go, and then we'll win. I think that's
too. They had already blown the leads to LMU and Portland and Oregon State by then.
That is true. Maybe just halftime. Let's play one half. One half of basketball, and then we'll just call it right there.
But here's the problem with that: is it depends on which team shows up. Is it the team that doesn't show up in the first half and has to make the furious comeback to come up short, like they did against Idaho, San Diego, Pepperdine? Or is it the team that looks like a national title contender in the first half, like it did realistically against St. Mary's, Santa Clara, Oregon State, LMU, even the first Gonzaga game to some degree, but then just has nothing they can do in the second half?
I just they're so... Yeah, like you said, they're so hot and cold, and it's not new. This is the thing. This goes back to last year too. And if it was I feel if it was kind of a 1 year aberration, kind of what's going on with this Riley team, that would be much easier to stomach for Cougar fans all across the board. But because it's such a recurring theme and this hurdle that they cannot somehow get over, it's okay. Now we're kind of just getting tired of it. So. Yeah, man, I just they're a head case, but that's the defining characteristic of a David Riley WSU team, I suppose, one of them at least. So anyway, unless you have anything else you want to add, I think that will probably do it for this episode. Like I said, they will play Friday 6 p.m. against Portland and Pepperdine. We will both be there, and we'll come back here probably. Well, I guess the finals of the tournament are on Sunday,
Tuesday.
Is that right? Okay. Well, all right. Well, point is, by the time we talk again, the season may or may not be over. So we'll probably
I mean, unless they win and go to the NCAA tournament.
Monday. We said the championship game is on. Oh, it's on Monday. That's right.
Yeah. Well, the championship game is Tuesday, but I'll be traveling, so I probably won't be able to record Monday. So
okay.
We have to do a 1 day late recording on Tuesday. Assuming they're not. I guess assuming neither Wazoo teams, because if the women are in the championship game, I'll still be down there. But it would take a pretty remarkable run from both. I mean, hey, like I said, Cammie Etheridge has done it before in a much tougher conference, but she also had a much better team at that point. So we'll see.
So what you're saying is that you're not planning your travel around them making it to the championship game?
I don't find it likely, but I've been wrong before.
I mean, even last year, Pepperdine made a run as like the 8 or 9 team, right?
Pepperdine went to the semis, So who knows? I mean, sometimes, as we know when it comes to March, weird teams get hot. We see, let me put it this way. Wazoo making it to the semifinals on Monday would not make the top 500 weird things we have ever seen in college basketball in March.
I mean, just yesterday, or it was 2 days ago, there was like Rocky Mountain College hit like a baseball pass buzzer beater. Did you see this? That was insane.
Yeah, it's March. It gets a little weird.
Weird things just happen. Yeah, exactly. So maybe we'll be reconvening next week and talking about how insane we sounded on the previous podcast.
We'll be reconvening next week, figuring out where we're going for the NCAA tournament.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
That would be the top 50 craziest things that happened in March, because they'd have to beat Gonzaga.
Yeah, God, dude. Or maybe the Zags lose. Who knows? We'll see. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, Worley
28 straight appearances in the WCC title game.
Yeah, I mean, Worley was out. Did you see that? And then obviously, I mean, I'm kind of just wish casting here. This is all just insane. Anyway, though, okay. I think that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, as always. And Jamey, I will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.